Hi, I'm Lisanne Miller with W, Cushing and Company, and we're coming to you early with Third Thursday to celebrate International Punch Needle Day. This is in conjunction with Rug Hooking Magazine. This is the latest issue of Rug Hooking Magazine. A lot of great articles, but here we are. We're going to celebrate punch needle. So, let's take a look at punch needle. There are two types of punch needle. There is the Oxford punch needle, and then there is the Ultra or the Mini punch. When I learned how to do the Ultra punch, it was called Russian punch or Mini punch. The Ultra punch is a pencil type. This happens to have 3 different needles to it and threaders. One hint on the threaders: put a little neon, you lose them even though you think you don't. So, Ultra punch is done with threads. And the Ultra punch needle threads, this is a Valdani. This is a variegated number 8 Valdani. It can be double-stranded, single-stranded. There's all different weights. You can use your DMC if you were a cross-stitcher. You can use needlepoint thread, wool thread, whatever you would like. I particularly am fond of the Valdani because it mimics dyed wool and dyed yarn. So Ultra punch is a pencil and it's done with threads. Now, Ultra punch is punched on weaver's cloth, okay? And this is the back side, so this is the front side, okay? So this is weaver's cloth. It's a tight weave. This comes into play when you have lettering. This is the back side. This is the front side, I'm sorry. This is the back side you'll be punching on. Pansy is backwards. If the lettering is not backwards and you're going to punch dog, when you turn it over, you will get God on the other side. Okay, so please, that is really something to pay attention to. And punch needle can be done with Celtics. This is the front side of a Celtic using Valdanis. Here's the back side, nice and smooth. It should not be all crossed threads. It should be as neat as your rug hooking. This will be made into dimensional core. I love to do dimensional things with the Ultra punch. And here is the back, just as designed and as flat as it should be. And a lot of times the threads do the work. This is what I like to use for the Ultra punch. I like to put it in here. This is a Morgan locking hoop stand. It's got 2 different sizes to it. I like it because it holds it very tight. There's channels, and I'm still working with a frame. I really like to use that as well. So this is punch. This is the Ultra punch or the Mini punch. A lot of fun, very portable. Threads, there's endless amount of threads. And I like to use this example to best explain the difference between Oxford and Ultra. This is the Ultra punch. This is I told you I like dimensional in the Ultra punch. This is our dimensional pumpkin in the Ultra punch. It is done with all Valdani threads. This is Oxford punch with our velvet yarns. And you can see the difference. One is threads, one is yarns, or it can be wool or different things. So this is Oxford punch. It is done happens to have been done on monk's cloth and done with our velvet yarns. So whichever you prefer to work in, they're both punching, and make sure that you punch on Punch Needle Day. So I'm going to focus on Oxford punch. I learned how to Oxford punch over 20 years ago from Amy Oxford, and I use the official Oxford punch, as you can see. This happens to be a 14, and this happens to be a 10. Now, how do I know what the size is? Very easy. It is engraved right in there. That's a 14. And then here's your 10. So what do the numbers mean? The numbers equate to the loop size. Okay, so it goes 8, 9, 10, 13, 14. Okay. 14 will punch 1/8 of an inch of a loop. And how you can judge it, you take the shank and it will punch half the shank. This is a 10. We'll take a much bulkier yarn. It will punch a much bigger loop. It will punch a 1/4 inch loop. A 9 will punch 3/8, and a 10 and an 8 will punch a 1/2 inch. So the lower the number, the bigger the loop. Okay. There is a fort of 13, which is a mini with heels. I started out with a 14, and you know, once you start with something, it is my favorite. I like to punch with it. It's always been my favorite. Not to say that I don't punch with the others, but I really like my 14. So, how do you know what's going to fit to punch? Very simple. You thread it without your bifocals, you go down the channel, you thread it again, no need for bifocals, and there you are. If it slides, it'll punch. If it slides, it will punch. Now this is a much thicker channel, so you can go to a much thicker yarn if you would like. And what you do is you thread or a wool strip. You would thread a strip in and see. And if it does not fit, or if it does not slide, let's use the word slide. If it doesn't slide, it's not going to work. You fit it right down the channel. You fit it right down. And this is a 6 cut. And this is a 10 punch. And it will punch. Okay? So that's how you take that. So depending on what size you would like, or what size loop you would like, you can test your yarns that way. If you're in a yarn shop or if you have a bag of noodles, you just take them out and you test them. So this is a 6 and it's sliding through the 10 just perfectly. This is monk's cloth. You can punch on varying different things depending on the size of your punch needle, depending on the size that you would like to punch. But this is monk's that I have in front of me, and it is a bluebird stocking. Perfect for punching. You can use a lot of different yarns, which we're going to go over next, to get a different look. You can even use the velvet yarn to make it look like a velvet stocking. Yes, you can use different size punches, just as we would use different size heights of loops to make up and down and create different dimensions. So let's go over some of the things that you can punch with. You can punch, this is a straight Lamb's Pride Brown Sheep Company wool yarn. Love to punch with it, works well. This is a metallic. Metallics work well because it is again a wool yarn. It is a little bit slicker. You have to be a little more definitive with your punching, but it's also an addition. If they will fit in the channel, you can add the two together. This is a boucle. Boucle is very thin. You would have to double the boucle or put it with a wool yarn, but the boucle will punch and give you a nice fuzzy look. Same thing with mohair. You can put the mohair and boucle together to punch to create a wonderful, wonderful animal bunny rabbit. Hand-dyed yarns. This is a hand-dyed wool yarn. Love them. They mimic dyed wool. We have a lot of our dyed yarns that are dyed exactly like our wool. They are variegated. They punch evenly. This is an Aran bulky weight. And here's another version. This is a garden palette. And you see all the colors you get in between with a hand-dyed yarn. And they just work beautifully. They fit into the punch. And I do like to use the hand-dyed yarns. This is glisten. Glisten is a tube. A tube is going to become very important. It doesn't have any fraying or anything to catch like a mohair or a boucle. You could add it in with a yarn. You could punch it by itself. It's a little slick, but it will add a little bit of glitter to your punching. This is a velvet. This is the velvets that I punched the pumpkin with. The velvets work really well in the 14. The pumpkins is punched in a 14 because it has a core. It has a little white core that makes it a little bit stiffer. It doesn't spin and twirl, and it punches very, very nicely. This is a burley spun. This is a burley spun, a Turkish burley spun, a little thinner. It is a little hairy, but it will punch very nicely, add a nice warmth to your punching. This is Turkish silk. Again, we're going to talk about the tube. And this is the tube for Turkish silk. It doesn't have any fraying ends. It's complete from top to bottom. It is variegated nicely with a long draw of variegation. Well, what does that mean? That means you get a lot of color, so you can punch a berry, a leaf, part of a bird maybe, and you will get it where you're not constantly cutting and switching. So this is the Turkish silk. This is Jack Frost, very hairy. I have punched with it. I will show you the piece in a minute. You have to have it extremely tight on your frame and be very deliberate, but the effect is just awesome. Well worth the effort. This is a bulky weight. It is hand-dyed. Here's another one, hand-dyed. Okay, you can see the colors. There's a long draw of the colors. But when you place it with the Aran weight, it is much bulkier. This would work very well in the 10, would not work in the 14. This would work in the 14. So you can see the difference in thickness between the two. Okay. Now, you can punch, oh, and here is a chenille. Sorry, this is a chenille. It's a little thinner. I have punched with this, and I will show you what I've punched with it. Love to punch with it. Gives a very, very nice effect. This is for the 10. Again, we're going to use the word tube. Okay, so here's the tube. And it's great to bind your punching with or your rug hooking, but it will also punch into the 10. Nice, again, no fraying edges to worry about. So, while weaver's cloth is what we normally would punch on, okay, weaver's cloth, for the ultra punch, monks is what we normally punch in for Oxford. So weavers, monks. But we can do both on alternative fabrics. So for the ultra punch, I have punched on velvet, a thinner velvet, okay? It was printed onto the velvet. This is the back side, and then here's the front side. And this was done with our glitter threads, our DMC and Kreinik glitter threads and Valdani. Gives it a very nice look. The owl really stands out. You don't have to punch the background. It is a thinner velvet, and it works really, really well. But again, it was printed onto the back. This is the back, and here's the front. It does need to be steamed and pressed, as you can see. So that is an alternative. Yes, you can punch, you can do the ultra punch on a tighter weave wool. But when it comes to the Oxford punch, you can punch on wool. And the chenille that I showed you, this is punched on a looser weave wool, okay? And it's done with wool yarn and the chenille to give it that warmth look. Unfortunately, this wool is no longer available, but it was a wonderful, wonderful wool to punch on, and it worked really well. But as long as it's loosely woven, it is really great to punch on. You can punch on the wool when you do it. You can also incorporate the pillow right into it. So, believe it or not, this is a bear. He's wearing a hat, okay, and I'm in the process of punching him. I'm doing with the velvet and the wool yarn. This extra wool is because I'm a lazy pillow maker. When I'm done, I'll put the right sides together. I'll stitch it around and stuff it, or put a pillow form in and blind stitch it to finish. But here's how it looks on the front. And sometimes the wool just adds a lot to it, especially when it's a pillow. It really looks nice and soft. And you can see how the wool yarn, this happens to be Lamb's Pride wool yarn, goes very well with the velvet. All right, so on to Mr. Nutcracker. This is one of our patterns. It is done on monks, and I want to show you the back first. The back should look as good, as neat and clean as the front. It should be lined up. Your stitches per inch should be there. It should be neat and clean, just as this is. In this, I used Jack Frost. I used this in a silver, and I also used a velvet for his face. And then this is almost just above a sock weight yarn that I had, different yarns I had left over. So you can see the bright colors, and if you're a knitter, it's great to use your stash up this way. This is a little difficult to punch. You have to be very deliberate. The frame has to be very tight, but it works well. On the front side, Mr. Nutcracker is right here. The back is flat. It blooms in the front. So I wanted to use, you make smart choices just as you would with any craft. So I wanted this to be very hairy, just like the Nutcracker is a little wild hair. And if you notice, my points are deliberate. Everything in here should be precise. And this is a good example of it. So it's a lot of fun. And there it is, punched on the monks. You can punch on the wool, the monks, and the linen. The linen I would use with the thicker thread, the number 10. I keep to the monks for the number 14. So I have threaded this with the Turkish silk, the tube Turkish silk, as you can see. Very nicely done. Slides nicely. I'm going to hook a petal on a flower. So, because I want to show you how to do a point and different things. So I'm going to punch it in. I would use a tighter frame, but I needed the space. I prefer my Snapdragon to punch on because it needs to be tight. That's why I like the Morgan locking hoop for the Ultra Punch as well. Nice and tight, drum tight. This hand, rug hookers always have a problem with what to do with this hand. I put it on top for extra tension. The channel has to be in the direction you are going. So here we go. Down. I'm sliding that tip. I am just coming up and sliding that tip. And that's all I'm doing. You hear that pop? When you hear that pop, you know you're doing it right. Now I need to turn up and go up this way. So I'm up here to my point. Okay? Notice I have not picked my Oxford punch up. I am going to turn it so the channel is in the direction I'm going. And I'm going to do that. I turn it in the monk's cloth. And again, all I'm doing, now I'm coming towards me, and all I'm doing is sliding that point. And I'm sliding that point. That's all I am doing. I'm coming down. Okay, and I'm coming down. Now I've got to turn again. Channel has to be in the direction you are going. So notice that this got wound. I did that deliberately. I could have done it the other way. That's a no-no. You have to have it puddled, pooled, and free clear through your punch. If you get runs where it's not punching, the first thing you do is it's probably under here and restricted. Or it's on the floor. I like to throw my skeins on the floor or in a basket, and somehow you stepped on it, it's not, the cats are playing with it. There could be 1,000 different things. Your dog has now taken it outside. You know, there's 1,000 different things, but it's probably restricted. My next row comes in, and the distance is the width of the tip of the punch. And I'm going to go in here again, and I'm going to turn. And I'm going to make sure that this is free and clear. And I'm going to come down right into here, just like that. And I'm going to punch. And as I'm punching, I'm making sure I'm going all the way down. That is the other error that people make. They get highs and lows. If you go all the way down to the wood each time. And when I learned how to punch, and it was a long time ago, I would say, slide down, slide down, slide down. And I repeated it enough, then I don't have to do it anymore unless I'm having a bad punching day, and then I remember I have to repeat it. And then I'm going to come into here, just like this. And I can now see the draw, which is very, very important, of my color. And that's what I would like to see, is the draw of my color. Now I got to turn again because it's got to be in the direction I'm going. And I'm getting smaller into here. I'm going to the center, just like that, just like that, like that, like that. Now, first thing I'm going to do before I cut is I'm going to check it. And I love to check it. I'm nosy. I love to see how it's looking. There's my first petal. Look how nice that looks. Look at the variation of the hand dyed. It looks great. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do because you can't see it, is I'm going to pull a loop. See how I've done that? I'm going to pull a loop like that. I pull it with my fingers, okay? And I'm going to cut it just like this. Okay. Notice I'm on the front cutting it. I'm not cutting it on the back. We don't want these ends on the back. We want them pulled forward. Here's the next trick. I'm putting my finger right here where it's coming out and pulling it up so I don't pull out my last punched loop. Then, when I've punched a lot, but I'm going to do it right now to show you, when I've done a few more petals, what I would do is you lay your scissors down flat, just like this, and you snip. And there's my first petal. Okay? Nice, variegated, soft. That's what I was looking for. Looks like the flower. So suppose I want to go now and do a little bit of the leaf. And I'd like the leaf to be a little bit more of a wool or just to give it a different look. So I'm going to go to my Lamb's Pride, okay? I'm going to put it on the floor so that it will go free and clear. I'm going to take out my Turkish silk, and I'm going to thread it right here. There we go. Notice there's no bifocals needed. There we are. Okay. So, I'm leaving a little bit of a tail, and I'm going to come up right in here. Now, I have loosened it on my frame. Did you see that sneak in? I didn't tighten it so you could see it. That's a no-no. We need to tighten it. It needs to be tight. Okay? When you see it sneak in like that, that's not good. It's tight now. It's not sinking in when I put my hand on it. And now I'm going to start again. And it's going to go in the direction. Tip is sliding, and I'm taking little steps with it. This is the 14, not, a larger cut. And as you can see, I'm just going along in my line, and I'm not going to outline and fill this because I'm going to use probably a different color on the other side. So, I'm going to turn it. Notice I'm not coming up. Now I want to show you what will happen if I come up because I can put it right back in. Watch this. I've pulled out my last punch. That's not good. That's not what you want. So I got to my point, I turned it, made sure my yarn was free, and now I'm coming back and I'm punching right alongside. Because I may want to do a two-sided leaf. I may not. I may put a vein in. You know, I may put a vein in the color of the flower or another color in the Turkish silk. Don't really know yet. I want to leave my options open. So then I'm here. Now I'm turning again. Channel is in the direction I am going. Again, I'm using this hand here, and I'm pushing it through like that, like that. And now I think I'm to the point, I want to come up into this curve to finish this, and I'm going to cut. This is what I'm doing, just like I did before. I'm pulling a bigger loop down below. I am cutting it, putting my finger here, and I'm pulling up. And both my tails are on the other side. It's nice, neat, even, as it should be. Okay? Now, if I want to put a vein in, this is a little bit thinner. If I want to put a vein in to match the petal, or this is also a way for you to see the draw of what it's going to be. So I'm getting into, now I'm into a green, nope, a little limey, won't work into that, may work into the berries. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put in a vein that's exactly the same as the petal I just did. And when you have something that is hand dyed with a draw like the Turkish silk, you can cut sections that you want or just punch away and see how the draw works and be surprised. So here's my tail again. I'm going to come right down here, right next to it. I'm going to pull this. If I can get it. Where are you? There you go. Going to pull it down. I don't believe, I just think that it's easier to have it all down on the front and trim it up nice and neat. Okay? So here we go. Down in. Now, if you were not sliding that tip, watch me slide that tip. Watch me slide that tip and push all the way down. Slide down, slide down, slide down. And that's what you're doing. If I pick it up, I pulled out my last stitch. That's not good. So, as you can see, I double punched. That's not good. A double punch is not good. You will hit a double punch somewhere in your punching. Okay? A double punch is not good. But we'll finish up the vein. Okay? I'm trying to show you also what you will encounter. So that is a double punch. I punched right over my green. And I don't like double punches. So I'm going to pull this here. I'm going to pull it down and cut it. Now I have a hole where I double punched, and that's not good. Okay? I have a hole where I double punched, and that's not a good thing. Again, my finger goes here. Now I have a choice. Okay? I can pull it up and repunch it because it's not a big thing, or I can use my point and I can push it down back in. And most times that will work and you pull it from the front. But in this case, because I'm by the Turkish silk, I am going to pull it just like this. Okay, and I am going to repunch it. Just like that, because I know my end is right. Oop, nope, now I pulled it all out. Well, that doesn't really work too well, does it now? So that's a double punch. I don't like the double punch. Not interested in the double punch. So I want to do it again. Now, you could have pushed it down. I could have taken my time with a pair of scissors and pushed it back in from top to bottom. But I had double punched the entire vein. So, you take this, you go back, you just let your finger do this again, and away we go. Now, double punches are very, very common. Why does the double punch exist? The double punch exists because I came way too close, and as a new puncher, or even when you're using mixed threads, it is something that you don't like. You think you're doing it, you're not. You want to make sure there's no breathing room in between, and that's okay. But that's a case of I used the wool, and then I went to the Turkish silk, and I punched it way too close. In that case, there's only one thing that can be done, and that's what I did. What I did was I pulled it out. It just did not work correctly, so it's pulled out. And this is the rate that I normally punch at. Okay, so I'm going to pull this down, just like that. This does have an end to it, so I'm okay with it. There we go. Get that little thread out of there. It's back in. Now, let me show you how correctly not to double punch. Now, if you double punch, there is another hazard of double punching is you punch it twice as high on the other side. And that's not a good thing. And that needs to have a correction as well. So here we are, and here we go. I'm going in. Now, I went too close last time when I started. So here is right there. This is how you know you're not going to double punch it. Okay? You know you're not going to double punch it that way. And now you're going to go right aside. This right here should be alongside, not into my punching. And I'll get a few punches in, and then you'll be able to see it. But that is the biggest hazard that we have in punching with different threads, and when you first learn how to punch. Okay? There we go. And there's the vein back in. I am going to make it a little bit of a tip. I've decided to change it a little bit. Coming back down, and I'm going to pull it. And once you pull it, it's in. So let's see what we have on the other side. But you see now, I want to show you the space. Here's my space. I did not double punch. It's not woven in. It's nice and neatly done. And here we are on the other side, where it's in, it's nicely in, and I'm going to clean it up first so you can see it. And how we're going to clean it up, lay our scissors down on top of our punching. There we go. There we go. Now, when you don't have a clean line, now you see they do expand. As you can see, it expands. Looks nice. The colors look kind of nice together. All right. So we've punched a clean line, but now we need to adjust. So here is how you adjust. Look what I'm doing with my point. I'm using my point. The channel is down, and I'm just using that to redefine my punching. My punching's correct on the other side. When your punching is correct, this will correct it. It does it very well. I usually do it at the end before I steam. I will do it at the end before I steam. And now look how nice and neat that is. Okay? Look at, there's no holes, there's no big lumps. And by using this, by using the point, but I use it this way with the channel down just to correct it. And now I'm free to go on. But what you need to also understand is what you're punching on the back blooms on the front. Sometimes you have to go inside the marked line. Sometimes you go on the marked line. But there you are. There's the start of it. Looking pretty. So, go back up to the front. Back, I'm sorry, what you're punching on. So you see how nice these are. They laid in nice. Then I can come back in with my wool. And that's another thing, when you come back in, I have to make sure very nicely. It's on the floor, I think. Yep, it is. Hold on. Let me get it. I want to show you because you're layering it in. And I want to make sure that you don't have issues with it. Look how nice that goes, huh? I love it. Just love it. Now, do you have to change up the threads? No. Could you have used a hand-dyed yarn? Sure. Could you have used 2 different wool yarns or wool strips? Sure you can. That's not a problem. So, I'm going to start here. to connect my greens. I'm pulling that to the front, okay? And now I'm going, see this? I'm gonna go right there so that my loop, my punch fits in. I'm not going right on top. I'm kind of making it like peas in a pod. So here we go. And there we are. And there's my first little bit. And I'm going to redo this just like that. Make it match up front. And then if you see it on the other side, yes, we'll have to adjust it a little bit naturally, but there it is all nestled in really, really nice. Okay? So punching is a lot of fun. When you get going with it, oh my, it just goes, you can go wildfire with it. You can have a lot of fun with it. You can use mixed threads. You can punch on wool. You can punch on velvet. You can do whatever you would like, as long as you have fun with it. So, celebrate International Punch Day. Have fun. Punch away. And I hope this has been fun. Bye for now.